Hey, hello, this is Monte Melnick. I was the Ramones tour manager from the beginning to end, and you're listening to the RockStop with Chris Contra.
Okay, you got the RockStop, Chris Contra here, and I'd like to welcome back to the show Monte A. Melnick, who was the tour manager for the world-famous Ramones. I think one of the most well-known tour managers. You were all over the Ramones home videos, so we got to know you pretty well also.
Yeah, I got my face into a lot of different things.
Absolutely, and you wrote about a lot of your experiences in your book, On the Road with the Ramones, which now has a new bonus edition, which you've added another chapter in the book. So can you tell us a little bit about what's in this latest chapter?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things happened since the book came out. I talk about Tommy, what happened to him, and talk about Arturo a bit. And I go into the Pinhead. I talk about the Pinhead and how that evolved, and the backdrops and the T-shirts. Page on each studio album, just going over, who produced the album, a nice picture of it, and who did the cover art and all that stuff. And then I talk about the awards they got.
Right. Now, yeah, it's interesting. You write a book years ago, and a lot does happen. As time goes on, different things happen, things change. Maybe some other things come into your mind that you didn't think about when you were first writing the book. Was there anything like that?
Well, the book is pretty extensive. I covered a lot of ground in it.
Yeah.
I just, even the first edition of the book came out 2004, and then they did two more editions, and then people died.
Yeah.
And this last, I had to talk about Tommy. I didn't get a chance to talk about him in the last edition.
Right.
So I put a little thing about him in there, and Toro.
Yeah,
passing away and that, and I got a little more information on people that work with the Ramones, like managers, little Danny Fields and Gary Kurfürst and stuff like that.
Right. Now,
Island and stuff like that. Stuff that I kind of left out in the first edition.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to go back and give the real full story as extensive as you can, and that seems to be what you're doing. And spoken by a lot of the guys in the band and people that were around the band a lot. That you got passages from a lot of these people talking.
Yeah, it's like a lot of oral history too. So I got a lot of people talking about the band. The funny thing about it, when the book came out, and some people didn't like. Yeah, you said that about this. I said, I didn't say it. They said it.
Right.
Which is in my book.
Yeah.
Say that about you. They said that about you.
Did that bother you at all? Catching some people saying that type of stuff?
Yeah, it happens. You write a book, and people, it's that nitpicking here and there, and people don't like this, people don't like that. Yeah, that happens all the time.
Yeah, that comes with the territory. You're writing a book, but you're writing your experiences, and like you said, these people, that's their own quotes, a lot of them. So it's all there in history, and your book is a great document of that for sure.
Also, the book, what I like about the book is graphically intense. Most books are like text, a couple of pictures in the middle, text.
Right.
The original design of the book was over 250 photographs. I put in like a couple more. I'm up to 300 images and photographs and stuff in the book. So it's very graphically intensive. It's great. I was very happy to get it that way, and also the way they laid out the book in different colors and stuff.
Yeah.
Pages and the backgrounds and stuff is really, really nice. It's kind of like a coffee table book almost.
Yeah, absolutely. Was it difficult for you to track down some of those hard to find pictures and things?
No, a lot of people gave me stuff. I had a lot of stuff in my own collection.
Yeah,
stuff. But, I looked up people that had pictures, and they donated the pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. I want to talk about some of the experiences that you had with the Ramones, things that we didn't really touch upon last time you were on the show. You mentioned Tommy a minute ago. You were really close with Tommy in the early days, right?
I was in groups with him before the Ramones. I went to junior high school and high school with him, so he was my oldest friend.
So he's the one that kind of introduced you to the other Ramones, and
well, when we got together eventually later on in Performance Studios, I brought him into that project. We built and designed and managed the Performance Studios, a rehearsal recording studio. At that time, I had my own projects, and he had his own projects, and one of his projects was the Ramones. I saw the Ramones, basically. He grew up with them more than I did,
Yeah.
I did see the Tangerine Puppets, that was Johnny and Tommy, play in 1967.
Wow.
66 at Forest Hills High School talent show.
Huh. Who was singing for that group?
A guy named Bob Rowland, I believe.
Did they do well in that talent show?
Well, yeah, it was fun seeing that. Johnny was playing bass at the time. He was what I remember is he ran up and down the stage like a madman. He started playing bass at the time, and then he moved over to guitar later.
And
they worked very hard. It wasn't overnight.
Oh, yeah.
There's a YouTube video of them. It's black and white, and then CBGBs. They're stopping and starting fighting. It was raw, really raw. They worked on it very hard,
And that was, I think, was in 1974, where they were so raw and kind of working out the kinks and things like that. But it seemed like by 76, they worked so much of that out and were so tight.
They had a very good work ethic. They rehearsed a lot.
Yeah,
they really rehearsed a lot. I'll tell you, in the beginning, I didn't like. I was, first of all, I came from I was in groups with Tommy early on, and then I got into a group called 30 Days Out, and we got a record deal for Warner Brothers Reprise Records, 1971-72. It was a country rock band. And then I went on tour we did some gigs with Beach Boys and Quicksilver Messenger Service, Tom Rush. So I was coming from a band we had harmonies, and everybody was a great musician, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I was coming from a total different area. I had 2 albums on Reprise Warner Bros. My band, before it broke up back then, was harmonies and everything,
Right. Yeah, the Ramones were much different than that. They stripped everything down, but they did keep the pop element to the song. They were inspired by a lot of the stuff from the 50s, like Buddy Holly and Gene Vincent and things like that.
And the Beach Boys.
The Beach Boys, yeah.
Did you see that thing? Mike Love just put an album. He put Rockaway Beach on it, and then he was played here on Long Island. Mark came out and played a song with him.
Oh, I didn't see that.
But he's got a whole beach music album out, Mike Love, and he put Rockaway Beach on it.
Yeah, that's a definite perfect song for that album.
And it was influenced. That song was influenced by them. The Beach Boys. They were heavily into music and listening to all different types of music.
It seemed like, and then they just picked their favorite influences, and it all came together into this thing called the Ramones, and the legends that they became for sure. And then came the records. Now they did 2 records in 77, I believe, but 2 records in 1 year is unbelievable. And the amount of hit songs.
They had a lot of material all stored up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. They were just pumping out the songs. And Dee Dee and Joey were the majority of the songwriting. Were you around? Did you see Joey, putting down some ideas for some songs, and Dee Dee too?
No, I didn't. I was really not involved in that particular aspect of it because they were rehearsing in the studio there, and I wasn't doing the sound for that. So
yeah.
They were in Tommy basically hacking it out. Tommy was putting it all together.
I gotcha. I was wondering some of the inspiration behind Sheena's a punk rocker, things like that. I was wondering who Sheena was.
I don't know that. I'm not sure.
So last time you were here, we were talking a little bit about the End of the Century record, which was, of course, the Phil Spector produced album. And now Phil Spector, he actually is the one that approached the Ramones, right?
Yeah, we were playing 1977, the Whiskey Go-Go, L.A., and he came back with his bodyguards, and there's a picture of him in my book. He looks like a vampire or something, as he's wearing a cape and stuff.
Yeah.
He loved the band. He wanted to work with them back in 1977.
Why do you think it took so long?
Well, they wanted to produce their own. Tommy and was involved in the first few albums and Dead Stadium, and they wanted to do it on their own for a while.
Right.
And then they did. Unfortunately, they couldn't get a hit. So they figured, let's try other producers. They tried this producer, that producer. Seymour Stein was a friend of Spector, and he got him involved in it, and he came in.
And of course, we know all the controversy that went around with it. Now, take me back to the house at the. You guys go to the Phil Spector house.
We did a lot of stuff at Gold Star Studios where he had all his hits in the early years.
Right.
That's where he produced. He invited us up to the house a couple of times and locked us in up. Yeah, it was crazy. We didn't know how crazy he was. I mean, we idolized him because he was a great producer.
Yeah. Why did he?
Well, we saw him in '77. He looked pretty crazy, but we figured, didn't know. We didn't hang out with him that much there,
Right, until you went up to the house. Now, why was he locking you in? Like, what was he
his
thinking?
House, you couldn't get in or out with it unless he had a key,
So once you were in, you were in.
Yeah, he had to let you out. And then he would play this. He played this movie called The Puppet Master or something, this horror movie.
Yeah.
But he played it over and over again, like 3 times. We had to sit through it. And there's one time we came into his house, and sitting on the couch was Grandpa Munster.
Al Lewis?
Yeah, he was sitting in there. Was hanging. He was a big friend of Bill's there. Yeah, and he was,
Yes.
And during the sessions, he was pretty wacky,
Well, there's the famous story of, the Rock and Roll High School, that opening chord to that song that, Johnny, he made him play it like so many times over.
Yes, that's absolutely true. And also, he'd come to dressed like a John Lennon cap and a T-shirt or something like that. Then he kept going into the bathroom. They came out in a wig and a cape. He was in there drinking like Manischewitz wine and other things. He was like getting pretty much high all the time.
Yeah, wow. I guess that was his process of. Producing an album or something.
And he had guns on him. He waved around the guns a few times at us.
Did that? Did that make you nervous? I'm sure.
Yeah, sure. Your gun makes you nervous. When you see what the condition he was in.
Yeah, right, exactly. Especially knowing what he was under.
Actually, I have a favorite Ramones song. It's on that album.
Sure, yeah. If anybody wants to hear Monte referenced in a song that Joey wrote you into, the song All the Way off the End of the Century album, it says, Monte's making me crazy. It's like being in the Navy.
Something like that, right. So I'm happy to be part of that.
Did Joey tell you he was going to do that, or did you just hear it?
No, he just did it. I heard it. I was fine with it,
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So, that Phil Spector was pretty crazy stuff. And did Johnny, was there a point there, like in the middle of the recording where he's like, I can't deal with this guy. He's just too nuts.
He luckily, they wrapped it up. He left early,
Johnny did?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they still had, some work to do, and I guess they put it together as best they could. Did Joey enjoy working with Phil?
Yeah, Joe. They got along well. I think Spector just wanted to work with Joey, basically,
Right, yeah. As
but he liked the rest of the group, too. But, he had a special affection for Joey, and the rest of the group didn't like that,
So after the record came out, it was probably one of the Ramones' best-selling records, even though it didn't reach the status that I think everybody was hoping for. But
right. It was one of the better selling. Best selling.
But after you were done working with Phil, that was kind of it. No more contact with that guy.
No. We went on to other producers, but they kept on jumping around with producers. They just come on. They wanted to find a producer they can get a freaking hit.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating for them because all these groups opened up for the Ramones. Blondie, Talking Heads, B-52s, all of them opened up for the Ramones early on. The Ramones are bigger, and then all of a sudden they're selling massive amounts of albums and getting radio play. The Ramones they couldn't get it.
I know.
They were like blackballed or something in U.S. radio, so it was a shame.
It was a shame, yeah, and I think a lot of that goes back to the Sex Pistols and a lot of that stuff from England maybe perverting the punk, what punk rock music was. And
that's what happened. Definitely. The radio station said, we don't want the Ramones here. They're going to come in and throw up and spit on us in the studio. Forget about it,
Right. And that's a damn shame, because
the album, which was, was totally different than the Sex Pistols.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought it had we hear it so much today and stuff. I thought it had a lot of radio friendly hits and things like that, but for whatever reason.
It is now. Now you hear it all over, the oldie station now. It's crazy.
It is, yeah. It's unfortunate though, while they were around, that things didn't work out a little bit better. So they went on to, I guess Tommy, he produced their Too Tough to Die album, which was a nice return to form. They must have really liked working with Tommy as producer.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, after. Who did their 1981? They did Pleasant Dreams in 81, but
it was Graham Goldman.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that
was a weird combination. 10 cc's, and I mean, he's a great songwriter, but poppy stuff. I guess they wanted a poppy hit.
Yeah.
The art 10 cc's. Graham Goldman. He's a nice guy. Work with him, but they couldn't get on the radio with that either.
Yeah, right. They did a lot of pop culture related songs and stuff, like about movies and TV and stuff like that. They got the song Texas Chainsaw, or the song Chainsaw, about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I know they were huge fans of the horror movie Freaks. And did they talk about them a lot? Did they reference like horror movies, things like that?
Yeah, well, they loved horror movies. I mean, when we went into different towns, they'd go to these little shops that sold movie posters, and that time they were cheap,
Yeah.
So they picked Mark and Johnny basically, and they picked up a lot of these. Back then, they were cheap, the movie posters, the horror movie posters, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And they picked up a lot of stuff. And Johnny collected a huge collection. Mark had a big collection, but Johnny had a huge collection of horror movie posters that worth a fortune now.
Yeah, right.
He sold off the collection Linda sold it off after he passed away. But and then he got one of the guys from Metallica into collecting posters.
Oh, probably Kirk Hammett. I mean, that guy's got a lot of horror movie memorabilia from what I've seen. Yeah.
John, I think, inspired him to do that.
When Marky then left in the 80s and Richie took over for him, what was were the crowds annoyed by that at all, or did they accept him right away?
Well, they accepted him pretty much because he fit in perfectly. He was a great drummer.
And then when CJ came into the band after Dee Dee left, was that one a little more difficult for fans to accept?
That was a little difficult, but because Dee Dee was like, a figurehead, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Tommy, transitioned into producing, and Marky fit in very well, and the transition between Marky and Richie, the fans weren't as upset, but Dee Dee, CJ had a little bit of a problem in the beginning, but he overcame that fast.
And he fit in, I thought, very well with...
It took him a few shows of the people, and especially because he started off his first shows in England, and they were a little rougher on him over there.
Yeah.
It took him a few shows, and then he fit in great. Came in and kind of gave the Ramones a number of years. They had to kind of suck in their stomachs and keep up with him.
Yeah, it's true. And I don't know, they brought in just some other bassist. That was a pretty fine line that CJ had to walk in that band, and he did a great job, because I don't know that a lot of guys could have done that with some of the friction in that band already.
Yeah, he did well. They're from the Marines, so he took orders very well.
That's right, and that's kind of something I wanted to talk about. Is like Johnny. Now he ran a very tight ship. As you talked about in the End of the Century documentary, that his personality could be very tough to deal with, but he did a great job holding everything together.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, he was a general.
You saw him in his softer moments too, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, well, 20 years with the guy, you see all sides. And I was very close to Joey, basically, because my girlfriend and her sister was Angela, so I got Joey together with Angela after the Linda thing happened there,
So you got Joey together with, who was Angela again?
Angela was Joey's girlfriend for a while.
Oh, and you helped set that up, huh?
Yeah, because her sister was my girlfriend, and then then we were like, I went to like Thanksgivings and Christmases at Joey's house, and got very close to his mother, a beautiful woman, Charlotte, who unfortunately passed away a number of years ago. So I got very close to Joey, and Johnny didn't like that because he felt I was favoring Joey, but also I had Joey had his problems with the OCD, and somebody had to like be on, stay with him and help him,
Yeah.
And I did. So Johnny didn't. I eventually saw it, but he kind of gave me a hard time. Said, "Oh, you're favoring Joey here, blah blah blah."
Yeah, I mean, he could be a hard guy to deal with, and like you said, Joey with his OCD. That's something probably Johnny didn't really understand at all. A lot of people may not.
Nobody did in the beginning. I didn't know what the hell was going on in the beginning, early years, because they didn't know what it was early on. After a while, after a number of years, they actually found out what OCD was, and he had it,
Yeah.
But in the beginning, nobody knew what was going on. We thought it was like out of his mind.
And he was just like doing some like rituals and things where he had to like touch things and stuff like that.
Yeah. OCD has there's degrees of it, and he had a severe degree. He couldn't leave the house unless he closed the door 10 times, or was walking down the street, he'd go back on the curb a couple, 4 times, and it was horrible.
Yeah, that's. So
he got some medicine for it, and he got a little better, but he always had it in the back of his character there. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. It's like being a prisoner in your own body, it seems like.
It's horrible.
Yeah. But later on, he was able to kind of get it under control.
Because they figured out what it was over the years, and they had some medicines and stuff, so it helped them.
So Johnny, he saw you as maybe favoring Joey, but really Joey had some additional needs, I guess, that needed to be tended to.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't have gotten in and out of his hotel room if I wasn't there, like saying, "Come on, let's do it. Pack your bags, let's go."
Yeah.
Or I had to make sure he had all his stuff for the tour. Otherwise I'd have to be somewhere in like. Belgium and something. He ran out of whatever medicine he had, or and then I had to deal with it. So I made sure he had all his stuff packed right before he went on tour.
Oh yeah.
I did it for myself too, because I didn't want to. It was a hassle.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that sounds like it would be. I did want to ask you about a show, sort of a unique show that the Ramones did, was the US Festival, and I think it was '82. That was sort of a different type of venue for them.
Well, it was one of the first big festivals, outdoor festivals they were doing,
Mm-hmm.
The problem was they went on in the early afternoon. It was like San Bernardino in the desert. In the summertime, it was like 110 degrees. It was like insane.
Yeah.
I mean, and then poor Joey, the rest of them took off their jackets, but Joey kept his jacket on for a long time. And Mark was drinking the night before, and he wasn't in the great shape. I think he fainted on the drums a little bit,
Oh, man.
They had to bring out like the oxygen for him, because he was partying the night before, and then all of a sudden it's 110 degrees and he's trying to play the Ramones songs at breakneck speed and stuff. So it was pretty wild.
Yeah, like the Ramones usually weren't an opening actor by any means, and so to do a festival like with all these different bands, and
I mean, in the beginning we went through a bunch of different booking agents who didn't understand where to put the Ramones. So they had us opening up for Black Sabbath. Those fans were throwing like stuff, batteries and things, and ice picks. I mean, it was very dangerous. And then we opened up for Toto once. How's that for booking? The good thing about that is by the time the Ramones played and walked up, the audience woke up and they were like half asleep anyhow, because of Toto.
Exactly.
And then we opened up for like Ted Nugent once in Canada. There's a famous picture of the band on stage. The audience was throwing like sandwiches and stuff on stage, and there's a famous picture of the Ramones before they walked off. They were giving the finger to the audience. There's 30,000 people there. They're fingering the audience. they were throwing like sandwiches and things at them.
Yeah, that was at the Ted Nugent they were opening for.
Yeah. Canadian Festival, he was on the bill.
A lot of those people just did not get the Ramones.
After all those experiences, the booking agents figured the Ramones are not an opening act. They're
right.
Just, get out there and headline, maybe smaller venues. But I mean, in Europe, we headlined like a lot of festivals.
Yeah.
So, I mean, eventually I got used to playing festivals, so it was pretty good.
Right. Yeah, I think that Us Festival was one of the earlier ones.
Yeah, it was the early experience of being in front of a huge audience like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask you about Dee Dee yelling 1, 2, 3, 4 at the beginning of songs. Do you know how that came about? Like, that's so, synonymous with the Ramones now.
I don't know how it came about, but that's how they decided to start the songs.
Yeah.
Who paced them?
Right. And,
they decided to leave it there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, some things I wanted to ask here. This is Monte Melnick. You're listening to on the RockStop. He's got his book On the Road with the Ramones, which has a new bonus edition, which I will leave a link to that you guys can check out. It has 40 additional pages. So I did want to ask you a couple things about the live performances of some shows that the Ramones played. After, say, Dee Dee was a little messed up during a show and screwed up, would Johnny, yell at him after the show? Would they kind of get into any altercations because, something didn't go right on stage?
Well, no altercation. He'd have a few words with him, say, what the fuck,
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. What are you doing? You messed up. You yell at him a couple,
Yeah.
The general was barking orders to the private there.
And would he yell at that, Joey, for example, or did he kind of?
No, Joey didn't really mess up that.
That's true. Yeah.
Messing up,
I guess, yeah, that's right. Now, I know when Dee Dee did his rap career, became Dee Dee King, and that whole thing happened. That had to be a shock for Johnny.
Well, no, Dee Dee was kind of spacing out there. They figured, let him do a solo rap album, get it out of his system, and then, get back to the Ramones,
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did there. So they let him do that,
Were the Ramones, did the Ramones have to be on, a hiatus for that to happen?
No, he did it inside the schedule,
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is that he took it a little too far, so we were flying down to D.C. once, and we get to the airport, and Dee Dee gets on the plane. He's wearing a jumpsuit and gold chains, and his hip hop outfit. And John said, "What the fuck? This is the Ramones. You're not in the hip hop group here. They didn't want him walking around like that.
Right. Yeah, it reflected on the Ramones. What is he doing exactly?
He didn't wear that outfit anymore.
Yeah. I heard he got into the whole rapping kick while he was in rehab. I heard that somewhere. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, he was always into the different types of music, and then he got into the rap stuff, and that's what he wanted to do. He figured he could do it as good as anybody,
Let me ask you about Acid Eaters a little bit. This was a cover album that the Ramones did. Did they kind of always want to do a cover album of some of their favorite bands and songs, things like that?
I'm not sure if they always wanted to do a cover album, but I guess they came up on their contract to put out an album. They decided to do a cover album, So they all decided to pick different songs,
Yeah, right.
Interesting take on a few of the songs there.
Yeah, they did a music video for, I think, the song Substitute, which was...
weird.
That was weird. Yeah, that's definitely one of the weirdest Ramones music videos. I mean, they did some pretty wild music videos, in fact. They did... that Psychotherapy was pretty outrageous, too.
Yeah, that wasn't even good old MTV who just wanted to be the Ramones to do this, the Ramones to do that, and then they banned them on that song, when it first came out.
Yeah.
They thought it was too violent, ridiculous, like Alien in the middle of the video, and the end of the video, whatever.
Uh-huh.
They didn't like that, so they banned it. It was horrible. The MTV took advantage of them. Another thing that was bad happened to the poor Ramones, They did all sorts of events for MTV, and then MTV left them in the dust.
Yeah, but the videos eventually came out somewhere, and you could see in that Psychotherapy video. It's a cool video. No reason it needed to be banned or anything like that.
The standards of today, the violence is nothing,
Yeah.
There's nothing in it, but that back then they were freaking out,
Yeah. And did the band have any favorite cities?
They were foodies too. They were when we come into different areas of the country. They like Cincinnati, the chili there, the five-way chili. We go into Norfolk, Virginia. We crab cakes. L.A. of course, Los Tacos was the favorite thing. The New Orleans, they were into the, gumbo and all that. So they were foodies, because when you travel, that's one of the perks. You can get the promoters to get you good meals,
Yeah. How about Chicago?
Nothing food-wise, really. Is that where you are now?
Yeah. We got, we're famous for deep dish pizza.
Nothing. No, they were New York pizza guys.
I gotcha. We got good Italian beef, too.
Sorry about that. We always like playing Chicago. There's some great venues there. What's that big ballroom, the Aragon?
The Aragon Ballroom.
To play.
Yeah, the Metro. We got some good places.
That was great. Mm-hmm. They always like the, big city like Chicago is terrific.
Yeah, right.
There was a food thing there, but...
So what did you guys do, like, to kind of kill the boredom of the road sometimes?
Yeah, you mentioned before, we go to, movies, try to do things like that.
Yeah.
Like in Austin, there was a great Barton Springs was a natural swimming hole. We go to there, and, we try to get around and do different things. Basically, you come into a city, you play, and then the next day you're out of there, you know what I mean?
Right.
Every once in a while, you have 2 or 3 days, very rarely, but we did it. And then we'd go to a movie, they go to poster shops, as I said before, and stuff like that. And then I try to drag them when we went to Europe to some cultural things, like I dragged Dee Dee and Joey up to the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, yeah?
John didn't want to do anything. We were like arriving from London across the lower end of England there, and we passed Stonehenge. This was the 7/7 tour, and we were in the same bus as the Talking Heads. And so we said, let's stop at Stonehenge. Everybody said, hey, great, it's terrific. John said, I'm not getting out and see a bunch of rocks. He didn't like to do anything.
No.
Well, we all went out there, and there's a picture of me and Tommy. And those are the days you can go right into the Stonehenge and touch the stones and stuff. It's great.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So
there's a picture of Tommy and his girlfriend and the Stonehenge in the book.
All right, very cool. Yeah, you gotta have to check that one out. The book's On the Road with the Ramones. That's where you can find that picture and a lot of great stories from Monte's endeavors with the iconic Ramones. You mentioned, you go see movies. Do you remember any movies in particular that you guys all saw and you kind of liked or anything?
Yeah, well, we were lucky enough to be in L.A. when the first Alien movie came out. It didn't come out yet. We got special tickets to a screening in the studio.
Oh, wow.
We didn't know what the hell that movie was about. Alien, fine. We went in and we saw that before anybody knew anything about that movie. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Just, the shock in that movie. It was a terrific movie. We got to see that before it really came out. That was an experience to have. Actually, in Chicago, I think we went to see the first Star Wars movie.
Oh, wow. Back in 77, huh?
Yeah. I think that's where we saw it, in Chicago. There you go. Chicago.
We got a connection there. So, yeah, so that's awesome. And then the last thing I just wanted to ask you was real quick about Maria Bartiromo. Of course, Joey's got the song on his solo album, his awesome solo album that I really enjoyed a lot. I know a lot of people did. Did he ever talk about her at all, or just did that song pop up?
No. Well, he used to watch the CNBC there all the time in the mornings.
Yeah.
And she was on that, and he got into the stock picking and stuff. So he became a fanatic, and he followed her, and he decided to write a song about her. And she got it and appreciated it. I think they met once. She really liked it and played it once or twice on the air. Oh,
did she? That's awesome. Yeah. And that's off his solo album, Don't Worry About Me. Did he talk about doing a solo album for a long time?
Well, yeah. And not a long time. Towards the end there, he had it in the back of his mind, and he wanted to do it, and he did it. It's a great album. I like It's a Wonderful World.
Yeah.
That's a terrific version of that song. And then when the band split up, Mark approached me, and he said, why don't you manage me? And I managed Mark and got him his first album on the Marky Ramone and the Intruders. So I was his manager for a year or two.
So how was that experience coming off the Ramones and just, managing one of them?
well, unfortunately for Mark, it was a little rough because he's coming from the Ramones, which is like big time, you know.
Oh yeah.
Making a lot of money. The band's making a lot of money on the venues and blah blah blah. And they stay in, great hotels and traveling and good traveling accommodations. I couldn't get him the same money that the Ramones were getting because he's Marky Ramone. They wanted the Ramones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that bothered me. He said, Monte, what is wrong? I gotta go in the van and I gotta stay in this type of hotel. And I said, Mark, I can't get you the money the Ramones are making because the Ramones are Ramones. You're Marky Ramone. He thought he was gonna go out there and just be huge right away as the Ramones.
Yeah.
So also tour managing and managing at different things. I was better tour manager than a manager.
Yeah, that brought a whole...
I tried. It was nice. I got him his first album deal. He got out there and he's launched his career, but he decided, he's out there now basically doing Ramone stuff,
Yeah, I seen that. Yeah, I like...
There's still 3 Ramones out there, Richie, CJ, and Marky,
Right, and I've had the pleasure to have CJ on this show, and I've seen CJ's band perform live, and he's very... a lot of energy to those shows. I enjoy CJ's.
He's terrific. He's out there. He's out there now somewhere playing. I forget where he is right now. I think it's California tour or something.
Right.
He's a great guy. I love CJ. It was a pleasure working with him, and he's done a lot. All his albums he put out.
For sure.
And then all his kids. He got 3 kids. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, but he's doing a great job there on the road, and he's got a new album out.
Oh, Holy Spell. Holy Spell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I just was with him and the Joey Ramone tribute here in New York. Once a year, Nicky Lee has his tribute show in New York, and then in August, I'm going out to L.A. because Linda has her show for Johnny out in L.A.
Yeah, the Johnny moved out to L.A. became very very big. Him and Linda out there in California. So.
Oh yeah, they got all the stars with them there.
Right, exactly.
That statue is a big attraction now.
Oh, yeah. That's at the Hollywood Forever Cemetery?
Buried next to him. Guy from Soundgarden is buried next to him.
Chris Cornell, yeah.
Yeah, Chris Cornell. But Johnny's not buried there. He just has a statue. Dee Dee is actually buried at that cemetery, not far from that statue. And then Cornell's buried there. And I think Morrissey wants to be buried next to Johnny for some strange reason.
Wow.
How's that for stuff, huh?
Yeah, I wouldn't have expected that, but yeah, it's become a very California thing, and a lot of people go sightseeing, I guess, in that.
It's a big attraction now. That statue, and of course, Dee Dee's beautiful little grave he has out there.
Yeah, they were great guys, and it was very sorely missed, all of them, and but their legacy lives on, and I know a lot of people, very happy about that.
Yes, it goes on and on, like the Energizer Bunny.
That's right, and I don't see any signs of it slowing down. So that's terrific. All right, man. Well, this has been great talking with you. I appreciate you coming back on the show. I wanted to ask you a few more things about the Ramones, and I'm glad I was able to and get this stuff out there for people to hear, and I know that they'll enjoy it a great deal. So thanks again, man.
Yeah, just look for this On the Road with the Ramones in the red. It's the Ramones in red letters, and it says bonus edition.
Right. So the new copy, On the Road with the Ramones, bonus edition in red letters on the cover of it. So I'll leave a link down in the description here, so people could just click it and find the new one.
That's great. Thank you.
All right, absolutely, man. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Not my pleasure.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.